Come be a part of Doc Holliday's Rock Splitting Politics with your host, Dr. Ed Holliday. Hear the voices of liberty speaking all across America. Doc Holliday provides thought-provoking interviews and commentary about the issues and actions that are afflicting this country and what we need to do to get America back on track. Get fired up, get inspired, get on board with Doc Holliday's Rock Splitting Politics right now.
And here we go.
And once again, that's the sound of rock cracking. You've got Doc Holliday's Rock Splitting Politics. We are getting very close to the end of the shortest month of the year, and we're glad to have each and every one of you. Yes, the rocks are cracking, and they may have been cracking because there's a new book out there. There's a new book. The author is Vince Ellison. He's been on our show a couple years ago, so we're glad to have him back. And he is a passionate speaker, a passionate author, and he's talking about 25 lies the Democratic Party tells to deceive, especially black communities. And he is African American, but he passionately believes there are lies given by the Democratic Party. Can you believe that? Well, you're going to have an opportunity to hear him in just a minute. Hey, as we're going to record the show, Ukraine and Russia are just very close to going to war, it looks like. Don't know what's going to happen. So our prayers for the people of both nations, and that calmer heads will prevail. We just pray for that, and we will follow that as we need to in the upcoming weeks. But right now, let's get right to this show with author Vince Ellison. You're going to want to listen to this. He may say some things you may not agree with. He may say some things that you've never heard before, but that's when you're listening to Doc Holliday's Rock Splitting Politics. So here we go. On this week's show, we got Vince Ellison. He's got a new book called 25 Lies Exposing Democrats' Most Dangerous, Seductive, Damnable, Destructive Lies and How to Refute Them. That's a long title, Vince. Tell us about your book.
Well, Doc, I could have named it 1,000 Lies, but I had to just narrow it down to 25 with the Democrats. As you know, a little bit about myself, I was born on a cotton plantation in Haywood County, Tennessee. My father was a sharecropper. He worked hard and brought us out of poverty. He got involved in the insurance industry. He did very well, and we lived a pretty good upper middle class life from the time I was 9 years old until I left home and went to college at the University of Memphis. It was Memphis State at the time. After college, I started working in a prison. And, I thought that we had overcome. I thought that black people had finally overcome in America because I lived in a small town. Everybody was good to each other. Everybody was nice to each other. Black and white folks got along. But then when I started working in the prison, I saw that there was that was all a lie. That I'd been in a bubble my whole life, and that there was a lot of black people were still suffering. A lot of them. And when I started working in South Carolina, in a South Carolina prison, I found out that in the 1980s, there were 3 prisons in South Carolina. By the end of the 90s, it was 45.
Wow.
And they started this massive lockup program. So anyway, I started asking the black intelligentsia, I said, man, what's going on? Why are all these young black men being locked up? And of course, they said rich white Republicans hate black people and they're locking them up. Uh-huh. So I resigned from the prison system, started working and I went into the community, started working in the nonprofit arena, trying to keep some of these young men out of jail. I found out something very interesting. When I went down there in the ghettos, I saw no white Republicans down there at all. No white Republicans, only black Democrats.
Right.
And they were deflecting and saying that the problems of black people were white conservatives, and it wasn't. And I saw these 3 entities that were making a lot of money off of the chaos. And I called them the Iron Triangle, my first book. Most black preachers, most black politicians, and most black civic organizers. So I wrote my first book about that. And this book is more or less a sequel to it. This book is a manual to all conservatives to teach us how to go and save the people in our community that they're after. They're after our children. They're after our children, our grandchildren, our neighbors, our friends. 25 Lies takes 25 of the Democrats' most dangerous and seductive lies. And I explain what they are and how we can refute them, so that when they're calling your listeners and viewers racist, homophobes, intolerant, they know how to go down, they know how to open up my book, point at the lie, explain the lie, refute the lie to them, and say, now what you got to say about that? So 25 Lies is a weapon to help conservatives, and also maybe to turn some liberals around, or some Christian Democrats who are voting for this evil Democrat Party and don't know it.
Man, and I know my listeners, a lot of them, most of them are conservative. Some of them aren't. Some people listen on. And when you say that some of these things that again, the Christian black leadership have for years been a part of the Democratic Party. And I tell people, well, where did gender confusion come from? It's come from the Democratic Party. We didn't have gender confusion for the Democrats for pushing this. And I've heard a lot of my black Christian friends say, we don't have anything to do with gender confusion. And yet, what about this rage of gender confusion where people don't know if they're a man or a woman? I'm talking about our children in schools, and they're being taught, well, it's fluid. You can be whatever you want to be. Most of the black Christian friends I have that are Democrats, they said we have no part of that. And, that's not something we support. That's not biblical. And yet it seems to be coming directly from the Democratic Party. Have you seen that, or have you got anything in your book about that?
Yeah, Doc. My first chapter, the first chapter I deal with is the lie the Democrats tell people when they say that you will not be held accountable for your vote. It's only politics. I'll talk about the fact that they tell people there's some type of severability between your vote for the Democrats and what the Democrats do. And I say, no, it's just like if a guy walks up to your house and say, hey man, I need to borrow your 38. I'm gonna go across the street and I'm gonna kill John. And you say, you're gonna kill it? Yeah, I'm gonna kill it. Well, here's my 38. When the police find out that you gave him the weapon to kill John, you are complicit in murder. There's no way around that. So when a Democrat comes and tells you, I'm going to give young minor children transgender operations. I'm going to vote for abortion. I'm going to, up to the 9th month. If you vote for me, I'm going to do these things. And you do it, you are responsible for it. Unless you repent to God, you will be responsible for it. So I tell them the Democratic Party is sending your soul to hell. You're going to hell, man, if you don't repent for what you're doing here. Because what you're doing is explicitly against the word of God. He said, I made them male and female. I made them. And it's good. And for people to think that you can castrate a child, like they passed a law up in Washington State saying that children between the ages of 13 and 17 can go to school, take these classes in gender fluidity, decide what their gender is going to be, and without their parents' permission, the insurance companies have to pay for a transgender operation on these children. So your son can go to school one day, abort, and come back castrated. Your girl can go to school, a girl, and come back with her breast torn off. And then they want to give them puberty blockers and all this stuff, all of it without parents' consent. This is the Democrat Party. And I started my book out with a definitive statement. Since their inception in 1800, the Democratic Party has been the evilest institution on the face of this earth. And in my book, I prove it. They have always been on the evil side of politics in America, whether it is slavery, whether it is succession, whether it was Jim Crow, where they castrated, killed, and mutilated people for 100 years, or whether now it is socialism and atheism. This is who they are. And we no longer have policy disagreements with this party. This party is apostate. It is out to destroy America, and we have to deal with it as such.
Well, that's a lot of passion in there, Vince. And I'll tell you, I write an article with a black pastor who is a Democrat, passionate Democrat, and we had an article just this month, and I was talking about 3 black Republican leaders that we have not recognized in the state of Mississippi. One of them was Hiram Revels. He was the first black ever elected to Congress in 1869, very first. Right. To Mississippi's shame, we haven't really recognized him as a state. Right. And there was a Congressman, John Lynch, a black, he was a former slave and elected to Congress, and then he found favor of General Grant, and he was high in the Republican Party for decades, and even ran the Republican convention in 1884, I believe. But I brought this out, and my black pastor friend, he said, he commended me that I looked at that, but then he said the entire Republican Party is full of insurrectionists and hateful. They've just been bad for black people, and he just said, that was a Republican Party in the 1800s, 1870s, has nothing to do with the white racist Republican Party today, pretty much. So how do you answer something like that when the Democrats come back and go, the Republican Party is white, racist, and hates black people as a whole?
I tell them that the Republican Party doesn't run anything in the black community. You might as well talk about the Labor Party in Great Britain. It runs nothing. The Democrat Party controls the black community. They control every failing school. They control every dope corner, every whole house, every crack house. They control the mayors. They control the judges. They control the police chiefs. They control the juries that lock black men up. They even control the jailhouses. Tell him from me that Vince Ellison says he's an apostate, and tell him that he is exactly what Jesus talked about when he said, there will be false prophets that will come in my name. And when you ask the question, when the disciples said, how will we know them? He said, you will know them by their fruits. Not by what they say, not by what they do, but by what they produce. He said, you will not get good fruit from a rotten tree, or rotten fruit from a good tree. Each fruit and tree will be after his own. If you look at the black community and you come to the conclusion that since the civil rights movement, we have gone backwards. The black family's been destroyed. 10 times more men in prison. The economic system destroyed. The black church apostate. Educational system the worst in the Western Hemisphere. You tell him that we have rotten fruit, therefore the tree is rotten and he is rotten. Tell him I said it. If he wants to front me, come on your show and I'll break him down.
Okay, well, we may get that together sometime. We'll look at that. But he won't come.
He won't come.
Well, we'll
I
see.
guarantee you he won't come.
But let's go on with some, in your book, and we'll explore. What I want to do is to explore where we are right now. With your book, Vince, and I'm glad you put it together, because what I just asked you, that's what I need to know, some lies that you expose. And it's not just for me, it's for conservatives all across the nation. They need your book. And I'm glad that you are standing passionately strong. One of the things I'm looking at, we have Senator Tim Scott from South Carolina. We got Burgess.
Yeah, I know Tim, the great man.
And Congressman Burgess Owens from
Utah,
Burgess. And then Congressman Byron Donalds from Florida. Mm-hmm. They're in the U.S. Congress, black Republicans. And do we have any more black Republicans in the United States Congress?
No, you have some scattered around in certain states, different states and whatnot. Yes, but none in the Congress. I think it's just Tim, Donald, and Burgess Owens. Yes.
So what would happen in 2022? Is there any way that, I know there's some candidates running. John James has jumped in to run for Congress in Michigan for a congressional seat.
Good man.
And then Herschel Walker running for Senate there in Georgia.
Yeah, good man.
So how could 2022 become what Time Magazine might at the end or in 2023 would say 2022 was the year of the black Republican? How could that happen? Is it impossible?
It's very possible, because they don't want people to believe that America has transcended into a post-racial society. Biden, when he got the Supreme Court pick, right? He stood there and said that he was going to pick a black woman, and he didn't say he's going to pick the most qualified person. He said he's going to pick a black woman. That was a missive across the black community, because he didn't want black people to believe that they could earn it, that they could merit it. The Democratic Party playbook says that black Americans cannot achieve in the United States of America. So therefore, if I give this if this woman believes she earned the Supreme Court, these black people might get uppity and start thinking they don't need the Democratic Party to give them handouts anymore. They don't need affirmative action. They don't need it because they can earn it. See, I believe we earned that we earned what we were supposed to have. Tim Scott believes that too. Byron Donald believes that, and Burgess believes that. Herschel Walker believes that you can earn it. The Democrats believe you can't. So all of these Democrats, almost all of them, these black Democrats, come from these affirmative action majority black districts. And they believe in segregation because they keep these districts majority black. They don't want a white person in them. They have these housing projects stacked sky high. They have these terrible schools. They keep the people uneducated, poor, and frightened. They use crime as a weapon.
Whoa, Vince, crime as a weapon. Okay. I hate to stop you right there. And we're going to let you passionately go plow straight ahead in just a moment. But first, let me remind everyone, you're listening to Doc Holliday's Rock Splitting Politics. You're listening to us right here on webtalkradio.net. We're glad to have each and every one of you. And we were speaking with the author, Vince Ellison. And he, as you can see, he's passionate. We're going to continue with the podcast right here. And let's just remind everybody that you can listen to us each week, and you can go back in the archives and listen to us right here at Doc Holliday's Rock Splitting Politics. And we appreciate Web Talk Radio. What a great team we've been over the years, and they've been very good to Rock Splitting Politics. So tell your friends and neighbors, hey, this is a midterm election year, and what Vince Ellison is speaking about and his book is scaring some people to death, because they have put fear into many people's hearts and minds with a lot of statistics that over the years, Vince Ellison is just telling you he doesn't like what the Democratic Party has said in many cases. And so let's continue and see what he's talking about when it comes to crime.
Now listen to me well. This whole crime surge inside the Black community right now that we're seeing, this is not a mistake. The Democratic Party has used terror against Black people ever since it has been a party. They use a whip, they use rape, they use murder on the plantation. During Jim Crow, they used the same thing: castrations, hangings, lynchings, you name it. Now they use crime. If you can keep people afraid, if you can keep them cowardly, if you can keep them laying down, they will always have to depend on the government to take care of them, because you can have nothing without security. If Navy SEALs jump down into a jungle, the first thing they do is they get a secure perimeter. Without security, you can't have education. Without security, you cannot have an economy. Without security, you cannot have a religious structure. So they take away the father, who's the number one person that provides security for his family. So during the Civil Rights Movement, they put in the man out clause, make sure he was gone. Then they take away the gun so the mother can't protect the family. And now they're defunding the police and dropping them down. And they're keeping that community in a state of terror. And it is a plan. And whatever they rule, that's what you have. You have terror. And the Black preacher, the Black politician, and the Black civic organizer are behind it. They're the old house Negroes of the old South, and they're there to make sure that the white master stays in power. That's their game. And they walk around and they strut like they're doing something for the people. No, it's all about them. They ride around in their Cadillacs and their gold chains and their rings, and they try to act like they're doing something for the people. They are nothing but apostates, like the Pharisees and the Sadducees were in the time of Jesus. And Jesus told everybody who they were. They were liars. They were a generation of vipers. And he told them that they were like their father, the devil. That's who they are.
Well, again, you got a lot of passion. And do you ever get banned from social media, Vince?
No, I don't use it that much, man, really.
Okay, well, what you just said would make a lot of people mad. And that's what happens with the truth so many times. That
truth always makes them mad. They got mad at Jesus, got mad at Abraham Lincoln, got mad at Trump. Hey, man, you know what? I'm a son of God. I'm an heir of Jesus Christ. I'm a free man. I don't live in fear. It has no connection to me whatsoever. Jesus Christ protects me. And as a Christian, we're supposed to believe that. Fear not is listed in the Bible 365 times for every day of the year. Wow. He commands that you do not live in fear. So they can't touch me unless Jesus allows it. And if he allows it, it'll be all right.
But do you have trouble in your hometown? Do you have trouble in the Black community, walking around in the Black community? You said you fear not, but I mean, I know your message is not well received in a lot of places.
Absolutely no problem whatsoever. I was on Laura Ingram's show saying the same thing I'm saying right now. Uh-huh. Man, I got hundreds of messages all over the world. Uh-huh. Only one negative message out of hundreds that I get. And it was just a guy calling names, a coward, that hides behind his screen on Facebook. But everybody else, great Vince, black, white, you name it. People know the truth when they hear it. They look outside of their window and they see all this crime. And they see these people putting black fathers in jail. They see them. And look, I got another line in my book that says racism is the problem in America. No, it's not. I said this on Laura Ingraham. I said it is black male cowardice.
Wow.
The Democrats see black male cowardice as a virtue. They always want to look at the past and talk about hard history of how mean white people were to black people during Jim Crow. I said, look, if you're going to be a free man, weakness always invites aggression. If you're going to be a man, you got to be willing to defend your freedom with your Second Amendment right to defend yourself. If you're not willing to do it, they're allowed the Klan, the red shirts, and anybody else that wanted to come and rape their children, beat their wives, and take their property. And right now, they're doing it themselves. White men are not going through the ghettos of America tearing up the black community. White men are not selling the dope on the corners. White men ain't doing the snatch and grabs. White men aren't burning down the neighborhoods. No, it is black men doing it. And that has to be addressed. But everybody is so politically correct right now, they don't want to tell the truth. It is not racism in America. White people aren't doing anything to black people. It's black people doing it to each other. It's not a genocide, it's a fratricide, and it needs to be addressed.
Well, one of the things that I've been looking at, you've been looking at, others, and what I see is almost like, and I ask you, could 2022 be the year, midterm election be the year of the Black Republic? And I can say it would be almost a miracle. But the same way, how did the colonies come together to fight Great Britain? And they had to connect. At the time, the best thing, they had a letter writing. They wrote letters. Now we got more communication. But the thing that the Democrats have seemed to be very successful is to keep black conservative voices isolated. How do you see voices like yours? And you are passionate. I don't know if anybody's more passionate than you, but there's a lot of black conservatives. We got, we just talked, we got 3 elected to Congress. But right. How do we get a connection between black conservatives? How, just like the colonies came together and fought Great Britain, there is an evil in the Democratic Party, and they have been very successful to keep you isolated, to keep the black conservative voice isolated. They keep it from coalescing. So how can that happen? How can you coalesce with others who think like you and work with people like me or others that say, we want to save America? And I see black Republicans coming together, giving a voice and giving hope to cities that are run by Democrats, mainly because they want to look at someone that's the same color as me, and yet the black Republicans have not come together and say, here is a difference. We want to represent you in a government that's run correctly, not what you've been putting up with for 50 years. So how does that happen? How do you coalesce with others?
What do? We coalesce with each other, and we tell the truth with each other. And when people see black and white conservatives working together for a common goal, and that is to make America strong, to adhere to the Constitution, and then they compare the two parties. See, what you're having right now is the people's contest. People are watching and they're seeing the black ghettos and the inner city cannibalize itself. And then they're looking at the suburbs where you and I live, and they seeing you and I having barbecue. I talk to people like you. I go on Fox News, and it's amazing that it's getting out to everybody. And it's getting out because, like you said, of how I live my life, how you and I talk to each other, how my wife lives her life, how my brother lives his life, how we, quote unquote, black conservatives live life in America. And as these people in the ghettos are looking at us and they're saying, those guys look like they're doing pretty dadgum good. And they're as black as I am. Mm-hmm. Obviously, this racism thing isn't true. And I say, yeah, you're right. That's how I do it. It's not going down there screaming, yelling, raising up. When they invite me, I come. If they don't, I don't. It's a sick mind that wants to be somewhere where he's not invited. That's why I was never for the forced integration thing. I wanted, people to come together who wanted to be together. And so they invite me, I come. If they want to watch me, they can put me up on social media, YouTube, watch me on TV. They can buy my books. They can go on my website. I give an invitation. But what did Jesus say? And I always take my examples from the Balls. He said, I stand at the door and knock. If you do not open, I will not enter. That's how I do it.
Well, you got a great game plan. Comes right out of the Bible, then, doesn't it?
It does. And he changed the world with it, didn't he? He changed the whole world with it. He didn't chase nobody, even with the rich young ruler. When he told him what he needed to do, when the guy walked out, Jesus didn't go chasing it. He said, "See him, die." So the people that want it will come looking for it. The people that don't want it are going to run from it, and you'll waste your time chasing them. The people that hate you are going to spread misinformation and lies about you. But Winston Churchill said, you'll never get to your destination throwing rocks at every barking dog. You keep going.
And saying that, I hadn't heard, I didn't know that quote, you don't throw, the rocks at the barking dogs. But I will say, I heard this, and that's what I wondered where you can put this in your vocabulary or how, and maybe there's a way to do this. And I think you being successful and other conservative blacks being successful, like you said, people go, well, why are they successful? Why hadn't racism drugged them down? And there's a story about, if there's three kind of people, those who are for you, those who are against you, and those who don't care. And as a leader, your job is to make those who are against you to become those who don't care. And and I could see that really happening in a lot of these war zone cities, that across America that have just been destroyed. They've been taught to hate Republicans, hate conservatives, and yet it's not that you have to convince them to become conservatives, but you, as a leader, you got to convince them not to be rolling the boat against you, because you can roll the boat forward if you don't have somebody rolling in the other way in the back.
Yeah, exactly.
So I can see when I said, how can this be the year of the black Republican? I can see if conservatives can come together, white, black, red, yellow, and say, put out enough information and hope that the people who've been rowing against all of us would just say, I'm going to give up and see where this boat goes. And it's just this thing about having a disease. I had a bad back pain for 5, 6, 7 years. Nobody could find it. And a doctor finally gave me an MRI, and he said, I found it. There's a cyst on my spine. He said, I'm going to go in and take it out, and you're going to be fine. He found that problem. He took it out. I've been pain-free ever since. This is the black community. They know they have pain. They don't know where it's coming from. And they are being told it's coming from a place where it's not. And they're always hitting at the wrong place, Like you got a flood in your basement, and a bad plumber's telling you it's coming from a certain pipe, but it's not. It's coming from another. They think that it's coming from the Republican Party, and it's not. It's coming from the Democrat Party. But the Democrat Party are criminals, and the criminal always finds a patsy, doesn't he? He'll always say that somebody else is the culprit. So what we have to do, and this is why Iron Triangle and 25 Lives is so important, it tells the Democratic Party or the black people or the people that it's affecting who your enemy is. And once you determine that, now you got yourself a fight. Now you've got to determine another thing. Since you know this is the guy that's causing you problems, do you want to get rid of it? Some people say, no, I'm used to it. Some people are in a state of learned helplessness, like a battered woman whose husband's just been beating the hell out of her for years. And she says, I know, but I'm afraid to leave it. I'm afraid of the world outside. I'm more comfortable with the devil I know than the devil I don't know. And you're going to find those people. C.S. Lewis said, God didn't send you to hell. People choose hell. And when I read that, I said, wow, nobody going to choose hell. What's he talking about? But then I started seeing it every day. The person who's on drugs, and you go to them and say, hey, man, I'll take you to a drug rehab clinic if you'll come with me. And they say no. The person that weighs 500 pounds, you say, hey, man, I'll take you to the gym and work you out, help you lose weight if you want. No, man, I don't want. The alcoholic that drinks away his check every week, and you say, hey, man, I'll take you to church and I'll get this spirit out of you if you come. And they say no. They choose hell. When it goes
people
back,
that are in the ghettos now, people in the ghettos now where you're offering school choice for their children. And because it's being offered by a conservative or Republican, they turn it down. They hurt their own child, choosing hell. This is where they are. So you can't save the ones that are choosing hell. You can save the ones that said, I don't want this anymore. And those are the ones that are going to go start looking. And those are the ones that will find you. And then when they find you, they'll be okay.
Well, Vince, I appreciate you coming on Doc Holliday's Rock Splitting Politics. Been on before, and we'll definitely want to get you back on again. And God bless you in your endeavors. I pray that it will just open up some doors for you, black conservatives and white conservatives, that we can get this country back on a road to recovery. And I like to say, let's don't make America just great again. Let's make America the best it's ever been. And that's what
there you go, brother. And look, and for your viewers, tell them to go to VinceELlison.com. VinceELlison.com. Buy Iron Triangle. Buy 25 Lies. 25 Lies is $15 now on Amazon. Iron Triangle has a real good price. It's under $4 right now. Wow. Buy both books. They will rock your world. They will change the way you see America. They've been some of the best books ever written.
I agree with
that.
Go
get them off Amazon. God bless you.
And that was the passionate author, Vince Ellison. Thank you, Vince, for being on Doc Holliday's Rock Splitting Politics. Hey, we got another great show next week. We'll see what is brewing in the world of politics. Don't forget to order your book from Vince Ellison, 25 Lies of the Democratic Party. Get that book. Tell your friends and neighbors about it. Hey, tell them to listen to this show and see if they agree with Vince. Tell people about Vince Ellison's book. And we will see you next week and see what kind of politics are rocking around then.
Thanks for joining us today, and remember to listen again next week for another edition of Doc Holliday's Rock Splitting Politics. You can order Ed's new book, Bedrock Truths, by clicking on the book cover right in front of you on the screen, or visit DocHolliday.org. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you again next week.